Make a motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes on January 3rd.
Second, all in favor? Aye.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
You got it, Michael? Yes. Second, all in favor? Aye. Public input before the public hearing.
If they're gonna keep their powder dry.
Consideration of new business, Upper Wilson Pond Dam construction contract award.
So we opened bids on that last Friday, they've been out to bid for about a month. Included the sheet here, so the bids range from the low bid for Gordon Services of $1,335,000 and some change to the high bid of Kingsbury Construction, $1,670,000 and change. Gordon was low by about $60,000. In terms of the overall project cost, relatively normal. Now, it's not they were $1 million under, $500,000 under. So Charlie did some reference checking, and as you'll see here, we didn't put it in here, but I did confirm that he recommends the award to Gordon Services for the amount of $1,335,700, and I included some additional funding for contingency and some upgrade construction.
Do you have a sense of why some of those line items are so different?
I don't, and I talked to Gordon specifically about how low one of their concrete numbers was. They said the same thing, they're gonna use a subcontractor, because they don't do concrete work, and they had two different quotes from concrete contractors. And I noticed there's some discrepancies, and I don't have an answer to it. Some of like the mobilization were completely different across the board, and that's pretty straightforward. The concrete is somewhat too. You know, the concrete's going out for like the concrete itself to live in place, and they're around $150 to $200 a yard. So some of those numbers were pretty substantial to put it in place, but I don't have an answer.
You're confident of the Gordon?
I am. They've been, as you know, they've been real decent to the town with their response to the flood damages this summer. We would have been taking a lot longer and a lot more money to rebuild the roads if it wasn't for them. Their response, anytime we call, like in the middle of the night, they're there. I talked to them a little bit, like I said, they've worked on dams before, but it's pretty straightforward concrete work, and they're using a subcontractor that's worked on projects before. In my own mind, I kind of predicted they were going to be the lowest bid, because out of all the contractors, they were the only one that could provide the materials from their pits, remove the concrete, repurpose it by crushing it as their pits, do all the excavation work. The only downside they were on was using a subcontractor. The prices they got on the concrete and the subcontractor were obviously very well.
I'll make that motion, Beverly.
Second.
It's right here.
So on the page 3 of the packet. So we're looking for a total amount of up to $1 million. Yes, so there's $1 million from the New Hampshire DES High Hazard Grant Program. High Hazard Dams Grant Program.
What page is it on?
Pages 3 and 4.
Pages
267 from Borrow Authority, 2021, Article 4, and 150 from
Second that. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
We'll be planning now that once we get that contract finalized, we'll be planning an information meeting on the Wilson Pond data project. And should get the word out so folks know where we stand on time frame of construction. We'll be going on that ASAP. I did hear from Representative Faulkner today that our covered bridge camera legislation has a hearing next Friday at 10:30. Let me know if you'd like to know the room number.
That's good.
So we're working through that process.
Plenty of pictures available to.
Excited.
We're gonna take a break for 15 minutes before the public hearing.
Last time I stopped at the movie on and it was sooner or later on the offside. Take you 4 hours to do it, dries up. Yeah. JCR was talking using access to the that end second, they're going to Depot Road, where they're going beyond the power. And then they come in from Silver Avenue to the north. And that's how the road is.
That's not. Usually, I like. Yeah, that's really good. I don't afford it. I can give you the time, yeah, that'd be great. So our representative of our Boston National
I have to call from somebody to go and all I know.
Thank you.
Move over a little.
That is kind of crazy these days.
All good. Work rate is work. We're happy, we're really
Really outside, maybe 10,000.
Probably 9:59.
Like a minute ago, or something.
Whatever.
All heard about.
Ready, Greg? Right, it being 6 o'clock, I'll reconvene the Board of Selectmen's meeting today. We're gonna have a public hearing, with the notice that are on, fire station bond hearing, North Winchester and California Street bond hearing, wastewater solar and energy efficient project bond hearing, wastewater facility study bond hearing, 2024 budget and warrant hearing.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. There are handouts in the back and some more in the front, if you're out back there. So I'd like to start these hearings with a sense of, this is last year's tax rate, but kind of gives you an idea of more or less what we expect for future years. So the town, with the portion we're talking about here tonight, this blue section, so it's about 28% of the tax bill. That'll be just got done paying about a month or so ago. So just like to give that perspective, it's not the whole tax bill we're here talking about tonight. Big red piece is the school district. They have probably a similar budget hearing around this time of year, and then they have a deliberative session in February. So we're here talking about the town portion. One general announcement. So we're going to talk about some tax rate estimates for different warrant articles tonight. Use those with even more caution than you normally would, because Swanzey is every 5 years goes through a revaluation of assessments. And our year is 2024, so we're going to be going through a revaluation. So you will probably notice from the news and whatnot that the real estate market has changed pretty dramatically since 2019. So we're expecting some significant increases in values, which should mean the tax rate is going to go down. But if you take these rates that we have in here, and then when you get your new value, you compare them, you're going to think, oh my goodness, my tax bill's going to be crazy. And it's not necessarily the case. So I'm just cautioning you to not use those tax rate estimates when you get your new values. So in your handout, you've got a copy of all the warrant articles. We're not going to go through Articles 1 or 2. Article 2 is covers the zoning amendments, which the planning board had multiple discussions about. The planning board chairman is here, so we can catch John after if you'd like to discuss, but I'm not here to discuss those tonight. So the first item we are going to discuss, which is not super easy to read up there, hopefully you can read it in your handout, but the short summary is it's a $4 million bond, $4.5 million total cost for a new fire station at 321 Old Homestead Highway. I'll talk about the little funding breakdown here in a minute. So the proposed station this year is just under 9,000 square feet. It's located at 321 Old Homestead Highway, which is land the town owns, and would replace the current fire station number 2, which is in the basement of Town Hall. There are 2 other fire stations that would continue to exist and have equipment in them if this were to be approved. So I mentioned, the article is 4.5 million, but the total estimated cost is actually 5.28 million. I'll discuss in a minute why those numbers are different. Unfortunately, from an accounting perspective, they have to be, again, I'll explain why in a minute. We got a quote for a 25-year bond from the New Hampshire Municipal Bond Bank. And for a 25-year bond, we'd be looking at about a $290,000 payment per year. That rate is estimated at 5.75%, much higher than what we paid for fire bonds. We've had a few as low as just under 2%. We did have a bond last year for Upper Wilson Pond Dam which was significantly lower than this, so we're hoping that's a conservative estimate, and it's gonna be, lower than that, but we're budgeting based on that, and providing this estimate, based on that. And the 24 tax rate impact is just an appropriation, it's not paying towards the bond, which would start to be paid until 2025. So when we started this effort, folks know this has been a long process to try to replace that fire station. The last article was in 2022, and this year our goal is to try to come as close as possible to that price, knowing that there's been significant inflation over the last few years, without compromising some of the core programs, which were cancer prevention, decontamination, and 12 member spaces. So the size is it's about a third smaller, from the 12,350 square feet from 2022, which was just under 4 million. We reproduced one of the double deep bays and shrunk the administrative areas. We also swapped where the bays were. In addition, the bays were kind of in the middle of the sandwich. Now they're on the end of the sandwich, so if we need to add on bays in the future, we have that space. There's not sleeping quarters or anything like that for full-time career personnel, but that could be added in the future upstairs. In prior versions, there was the opportunity to add it on to the side, so this would be an upstairs option in the future. With that, I will turn it over to Katie Sutherland from KCS Architects, who will kind of give you a little bit of a snapshot of the design, explain how it works and how she came up with it. This is it.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Katie Sutherland from KCS Architects. It's nice to be here tonight. Thank you for participating. We've been working hard with town and the fire department last fall to really right-size this building. We've been working on this project since 2018. As Michael said, our first building was a little over 12,000 square feet. And what we've come up with is something we think that we have right-sized to really fit today's needs, but to enable it to be expanded in the future if it needs to be expanded in the future. So it's just under 9,000 square feet. As Mike Farmer told me, it is still a little more expensive than it was last time because there's been so much inflation in the last 4 or 5 years. But basically what we planned is a 1-story administrative office area in the front of the building facing Old Homestead Highway. And then behind that, we have decontamination and firematic spaces to serve the apparatus bays and apparatus bays at the very back, which are 1-story but higher to fit the big vehicles in that space. This is a site plan. Fieldstone Land Use Consultants is one of our team members, and they have been helping us design the site, the setting of the building on the site. There are 2 driveways on either side of the building. There's parking to the side. At the front, the public office spaces. On the side is really intended for the volunteer fire personnel, and some parking at the back as well. There's ample turnaround space for the large trucks to get in to the bay and come out the other side if they need to. The footprint is smaller than it was. We actually reduced the footprint by 3,400 square feet, which enables us to do less grading work on the site. So we've been able to reduce the site cost quite a bit by reducing that footprint and holding it tighter to Old Homestead Highway. The floor plan, as you can see here, has a front area of offices. It's a single-story building, but the roof framing will be designed so that a second floor could be added in the future if it is ever necessary. So there are smaller offices than we have before, but there are still office spaces, a training room, and some storage areas for the training equipment and that sort of thing, for public bathrooms. The central section here is the firematic space, which includes at the bottom of the sheet, turnout gear. This is where the gear, the clean gear, after it's been decontaminated after a call, and it dries and it stays there, and so fire personnel come in and they're able to pick it up and use it when they're on a call, when they're coming to respond to a call. Opposite this hallway is the SCBA here, that's the self-contained breathing apparatus, there's a compressor room and a maintenance room that is required for that equipment. Also off of the bay is an EMS room for ambulance calls, all of the EMS equipment goes in there. And then on this side, there's a door to the outside and a door to the bay to the decontamination area, which is a very important area for the fire personnel to be able to take all of their gear off after they've been at a call, the decontaminated gear, wash it off outside, bring it in, take it off, get it clean into the laundry room, and then after they do that, they can go into a female and male locker room that has restrooms and showers. So this is a very efficient layout of the space, the sizes of some of these spaces, and we think about where they are in the building so that we can have the bays at the back and be able to expand and add another bay, should that ever become necessary. It may not become necessary, but if it does become necessary, this is a smart plan because we can add another drive-through bay at the back of the building. So, lots of work went into discussing this with town, with the fire department, to make sure that we could really make these spaces as small and efficient as they can be and still work well for the fire department and for the town that they're serving.
So, as I mentioned, our initial goal was to try to come in at the same price, and we were unsuccessful to do that. So this area here is the kind of cancer prevention employee space for the call volunteers. That was really something we didn't want to touch at all. She mentioned she made a couple of spaces a little smaller, but not much. The other big opportunity would be this training area, and the select board, with the fire department as well, we're strongly supportive of maintaining that space, so they didn't have to continue to use this building or other places that aren't really designed for that use. So they have a dedicated space to be able to train most other departments potentially have classes. So if you're not doing anything for this space, and you're not doing anything to the meeting room, there's only so much more we could shrink it, which is why we were unsuccessful in meeting the price. So we really felt like we couldn't compromise any further.
While he's picking up the computer, I did bring a set of prints, which I put on the other side of the room on the easel there, if anyone wants to be able to look through the drawings after the meeting, they're available. We also designed the building to be simple framed with metal siding. So we're not looking at doing a masonry building, but trying to keep costs, and maintenance smart by using a metal siding product. We're going to use gray metal siding with red windows, red highlights, and I will show you that as we get through the drawing. These are the sort of flat two-dimensional elevations of the building, where you can see the front of the building in the one-story, has some canopies over the entry doors. Back of the building, obviously, one story, one tall story. There is a mezzanine over the decontamination area that provides some storage and mechanical and additional training space for the fire department. These are some perspective views and three-dimensional views of the building and how it would look from Old Homestead Highway. we're trying to pick up on some of the vernacular from the Nanotech building, which is an attractive new Swanzey building with gray on the side and some red accents, and that is also very appropriate for the fire department, while also keeping costs in check. Any questions? With that, I would invite Mike Farm to come and talk about the estimate.
Yeah, just by way of introduction, so this effort, one thing we also did differently was instead of just working with the architect and then having a construction company provide an estimate, we hired DPW Construction to serve as the construction management firm to play a part in the design process, to review the materials that were being used, some of the design decisions, to have that seat at the table to make sure we were doing things as economically as possible. And if I'll let these folks usually want to talk about it, but if the project is approved, they will then be the construction company that will be building the project. So we have Mike Farm and Matt Wheaton from DPW Construction. If you do have a handout, that should be marked there.
So good evening, everyone. Again, I'm Mike Farm with DPW Construction, joining with Matt Wheaton. And I want to start by saying thank you for bringing us on board during this pre-bond period and teaming up with you. I want to point out DPW does have significant experience in situations like this, being brought on during pre-bond and helping come up with a responsible budget for the project. For example, in Brattleboro, they built a new fire station, West Fire Station, and they renovated their existing and then they renovated to a new police station. We were brought on board during the pre-bond period. So we recognize the importance of having an accurate and responsible bond value, bond budget, and it's responsible. We take it very seriously and we put a lot of effort into this. So this overall budget sheet is a recap, and there's a lot of detailed estimates that went in behind this, so to speak. And it's broken out by the construction costs by divisions, and I'll talk to that. And then we have professional services costs, subtotals for both, and then a total overall project budget of $5,280,000. So starting with the construction costs, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar with construction terminology, we refer to it as trades in construction. Most of you probably know that's where you're digging in the ground, you're putting in dirt and pipe, and you want to make sure you have your soils done correctly, so when the foundation goes in, it's properly supported. There's concrete, you know what concrete is, there's steel, I won't read them all. And then there's some of the others are fire protection, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. All of these trades that we envision for the current design in this project, we estimated in-house. We have 7 estimators, and we broke this up. With people's strength, we have 1 person dedicated to the site work for the concrete. Our in-house mechanical engineer focused on the pricing for the mechanical, which is the heating, ventilation, air conditioning, electrical, plumbing, fire protection. The 3rd estimator did the balance, and then we assembled all the costs for the total cost. So I won't go down each line item, but we're ready to field questions on them as you want. But we have the cost of construction shown. We have our costs, our construction management fee, insurance, and general conditions. And then the line item within the construction costs, you see a design and owner's contingency. You can see the level of documentation where it's at. The architect and the design team haven't been released, so it's go full steam ahead yet. So at this stage, it's our recommendation. We need to, as a team, carry a contingency. We don't know everything yet. Not everything's been designed. But what we don't do is we estimate those divisions that I mentioned earlier as we see it. We don't put contingency on all those. We estimate those as we see it for the drawings and our meetings that we've been having, as Mike mentioned, and then we assign a contingency that we all manage moving forward. Then the next category is professional services costs, and you can see those, there's site design, geotech report, testing and permitting. You know, what's the unknown on this project? We gotta finish the design, of course, but this isn't a renovation. We don't have that, what's in the walls, change orders, you know, added scope. What we don't know is what's in the ground for sure, although we know around the area. But still, some of this money is to get a geotech engineer there to do some test pits, dig up some dirt, make sure that the surface supporting the structure is adequately designed and the soils are suitable. There's architectural and engineering fees, there's architects, there's for the structural engineers, for the fire alarm engineer, the electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, plumbing engineers, not just architectural. Apparatus pay and decontamination equipment, that is a budget that Mike has provided, but at this point in time, training emergency operation furnishings not included at this point in time. And the last item we've listed under professional service costs, the utility company charge allowance. To be determined, if there's a pole mounted transformer, we may not have utility company charges, but if it's like ground mounted, we likely would. So that's the overall budget. I do want to point out that as we proceed and move forward, these are numbers at this point in time, and this arrangement as construction manager, it is all open book. Some of these numbers, when we get bids eventually, when the design is done, and we get 3 to 5 to 6 bids in each trade, all of that is open book, all of it's reviewed together as a team, and we as a team collectively would make a decision on who to move forward with subcontractors to support the job. Any questions? Go ahead. Yeah, any money not spent, like that contingency, we could be hopeful on that. If it's not all needed, that is potential. If it's not spent, it gets returned.
One question.
Yes.
Does that cover getting more of the position?
Yes. About 1,100 linear feet of a sprinkler line and water as well.
On Route 32?
Yeah, bringing it up the road. Yes. We price that, and that's one of the subs we reached out to check our pricing on that, how much per linear foot. So we were pretty close together, so we have that included. Yes. Awesome. Thank you.
I mentioned you have a full version of that in your handout, so you got the slide version in the beginning, but it's also on page 44, so it's a larger version further in addition to some of the.
Just like the basic battery, so I was saying right now. I think just the knowledge just keeps that going.
through 15-year-old projector. 10 minutes to warm up. So just to wrap up the financial overview, so I mentioned the total cost, 5.28 million, the article is 4.5 million, the bond of 4 million. So the article also includes $200,000 from congressionally directed spending that Senator Shaheen was able to secure for the town, and that is something that would go away if we were not able to show reasonable progress to that we were going to construct the new station. And then also the appropriation this year, some from fund balance and some from taxation. So I mentioned there's some things that are not included in the warrant article. One is the town received $840,000 from the state through the Invest NH affordable housing programs for the project over at Route 10 and Perry Lane, the affordable housing project. So we're suggesting putting $500,000 of that money towards this project. And then last year we had an article that saved $300,000 in the fire station's capital reserve fund. So that's something that's under the Selectmen's authority. So that covers a lot of those contingency and some of those costs that we hope not to need versus borrowing for that amount. We need to use other funds to try to keep that cost. That is what we had for the fire station. This is a public hearing. Pause again, ask for questions, comments.
Is it just the one station? No, I'm okay. Is it just the one station that we're gonna eliminate by this, or in the future is the other one's gonna go there too?
So that's correct. So this station would just be the current station 2 under the town hall has 3 bays. So this one would have 4. Obviously, the employee spaces are much different, but yes, it will only replace the station.
So we'll always keep the other 2.
Always is a long time, but there's no immediate plan for any other station projects, not our capital improvement plan.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to the next one. So these other ones are much quicker, and we've got the projector turning up, so we'll keep going. So again, this is very small. I will not read this whole thing, but I'll give you a summary. So Article 4 is to reconstruct North Winchester Street and California Street east of Route 10. So California Street crosses Route 10. This is only the section basically around the property just west of that. You might be saying, we don't have warrant articles every year to approve a road to be reconstructed, and that would be true. This one, for better or worse, we were able to receive some, what they call forgivable loan, which is essentially a grant, and then low interest loan through the state. To receive those funds, we're required to have a bond article, and that's the same situation for these next 2 items as well. So that's why we have these articles that normally we wouldn't necessarily have. The town selectmen appointed an advisory committee which reviewed traffic flow options in 2023. Based on the committee's recommendation and public input, no changes to the traffic flow are being made, so both roads will stay 2-way. So one-way traffic being incorporated. And that's just when we get to the end of the road, the whole cost of the project. I mentioned the forgivable loan, the interest loan, and there's no direct tax rate impact on the start of the road. So again, the total project, this is another one where there's other funds that are not incorporated. The total project cost is about 1.9 million. There's a forgivable loan, grant, low interest loan, a Northern Borders Regional Commission grant that the town received, which we also received for the other side of the road, South Winchester Street and West Street. And then Alliance for Sustainable Transportation asked for the sidewalk grant, $75,000. The remainder would be made up by local capital funds So these, again, probably hard to see, you have larger ones in your handout, just kind of giving examples of what the road's gonna look like. So this is North Winchester Street, this is at the Route 10 intersection, so we're looking to improve that intersection. Right now, it's kind of a slip lane, we're trying to make it so it narrows up a little bit, slows down the traffic, try to make it safer. And I believe this is just a stretch of North Winchester Street. This is the North Winchester Street, kind of California Street, Main Street intersection here, so the crossing bridge is over here. So we're looking to narrow that up, that area, if you're familiar with it, is exceptionally wide right now. So we're going to narrow it up a little bit, improve the crossings, and then this is the California and Route 10 intersection. Staying more similar to how it is. Pause for any questions, comments, or concerns on Article 4. Just mentioned that we do have Ben Dryer with Underwood Engineers and some of his team who worked on this project on Zoom as well. If you have any technical questions, we're all set then, so you guys can go back here again. Move on to Article 5. So this is one of these, another one of these articles that I mentioned where we need to get borrowing authority. So this one is as a result of a state-funded energy audit that the town performed last year. Some of you might know wastewater treatment plants are significant electricity users, so I think in 2023, our property is going to, our wastewater treatment plant in West Swanzey is going to be using $30,000 electricity. So they recommended some energy efficiency improvements to lower the usage, and then a solar array to help offset that usage. Solar system would be owned by the town, so it's not a lease situation, and there's no direct tax rate impact in 2024. There's another one where there's multiple funding sources that will So folks are familiar, this is the plant on Denman-Thompson Highway, just down the road here a little bit. So roads are here, lagoons are here. This is the proposed kind of area that we're talking about to put the solar array. One of my questions, which you might be wondering, is this going to limit future uses of this property? We're going to talk in the next article how the system has some kind of limitations right now. Are we tying our hands by putting the solar array there? Are we going to need another lagoon? Ask the former operator who's here tonight, Scott Sell, and also DPW, our contracted operator. They all said another lagoon is not likely. That's a good spot for it. But that was one thing I was concerned about. That seems like it's not. So I mentioned we were awarded state funding for this project. So we issued what's called a request for qualifications to select a company to give us a little bit more of a detailed proposal. And we, through that process, selected Revision Energy. We have two new group from Revision Energy here who I'll ask to come up and maybe speak a bit about the project and then answer any questions you might have. As I mentioned, the total usage right now is a little over 30,000 per year. And based on the funding sources, we're expecting town sewer fund costs to be relatively minor.
Good evening to all of you. My name is Joseph. I'm from Revision Energy. I've been working with Revision Energy for the last 4 years. We have been in business a little over 3 years now, working with municipalities, schools, and businesses across 3 different states, Maine, New Hampshire, and Mass. So we celebrated our 20th year last year. We have about 5 branches across these 3 states. We have 2 branches in New Hampshire. And this is, I would like to know, Vision Energy is more like a household name, but just in order not to waste your time, I would like to know how many of you have heard about Vision Energy or have done business with us either as an individual or at the organization level.
Has anyone heard of Revision Energy or, yeah, seems to not.
Okay. Yeah, so Revision Energy is a B Corp, which means that we went through an independent verification process to be certified that our operations are consistent with the triple bottom line of B Corp planning before profit, and we are also 100% employee owned. So the benefit that comes to the company is shared among all the employees. We have about 460 employees across all our locations. So I would like to use this opportunity to thank the town of Swanzey. I'm also a resident here, but I don't work for the town. So for selecting us to partner with the town to build this important project. We have done several of wastewater treatment plant projects. Nonpublic, the largest is right in Swanzey here. It is our largest wastewater solar project. We have also done one for Winchester, the city of Lebanon, town of Hanover, city of Winchester, and several others. So, and we have several others under construction. So we have quite substantial experience in building projects like this. So we were selected through the bid process, and the design is 122.7 kilowatt DC. That means that would be 100 kW AC. Now, when we talk about the system from the utility point of view, we are talking about AC. So this system is projected to generate about 162,326 kilowatt hours of energy. And that is a little about what the site is currently consuming, like the wastewater treatment plant, which is about 140,000 kilowatt hours. So that would be about 112% of energy offset, meaning that there will be some excess energy that will be sent to the grid. So the way that we have designed the system is to interconnect it to the EverSource grid. So currently, there is a 30 kVA transformer at the site, which is too small for the system that we have designed for the site. So we are going to drop a new transformer, which is going to be 100 kVA to replace the existing site. And in terms of site preparation, the site is already cleared, so we are not going to cut trees. It's already an open field. So we are going to remove just about 4 trees. We have earmarked those trees in our proposal. We are envisaging that the town probably can do that. If you want to do that, that will add some cost. So when you consider the site, the fact that we are not going to do site clearance, we are not going to do fencing because there's already fencing at the site. And the service, there's enough service capacity within the building. The cost of the project comes in about, roughly about $375,000, roughly. That is quite lower compared to other systems of the same size. And the reason being that, like I said, we are not going to clear the site. It's already cleared. We are not going to fence. And the service is, quite okay. And this location is also not too far away from our branch in Brentwood. So that helps the cost. Compared to if we were to build the same system, let's say in the North Country, that would probably be much more higher than what we have estimated. So this system, with all of the consumption and offset, we are envisaging that the town can get 50% of the cost from the state. I'm not too sure exactly the source of that funding, but I understand from the RFQ that we responded to, the town will be getting about 50% of the cost somewhere. And then we also model the system for the town to be able to take 30% of the total project cost from the federal government investment tax credit. And so all of that will boil down to about the town having to come out with about 20% of the project cost. So with all of that incentives coming in, the system will pay off itself in just about 3 years. And so that's a cool project, and these are incentives that can really help the project in terms of. So that's just a brief overview of the project. If there are questions or any clarification, either relating to the system size or the projection or other savings assumptions, I'm happy to address those questions.
Thank you.
So this is also related to the wastewater treatment plant, so the town applied for and has been awarded a grant through, again, forgivable loan, so I have an article, through the state to do a feasibility study of the West Swanzey wastewater treatment plant. That facility is approaching its limits on phosphorus treatment currently, which would restrict it from accepting additional users. So we applied for, and as I mentioned, have been awarded funding to basically conduct a study to evaluate the system and hopefully develop some recommendations to address those limitations. Any questions or comments or concerns on that item? Yes, Bruce.
Bruce Mohammed, I'm curious why these two warrant articles were brought for the capital improvement community to for discussion, just even talk about warrants.
The feasibility study came up over the last few weeks. We initially applied and were not selected, and then were selected subsequently. The other one, honestly, we're working with the Energy Commission. I think it was just an oversight based on that it's a sewer and largely grant funded, but yes, probably should be discussed.
Was there any, and I noticed, probably you're going to want some other questions afterwards, but I noticed that there's no provision in the warrant articles at all for engine 2 to be replaced. Is there any consideration for that so that the fire department should start looking to try to get into that and replacing engine 2? If you don't do anything about it this year, my understanding is that it's going to take a long time, a lot longer time to be able to procure that truck.
Will probably be on the warrant next year, and then it would probably take about a year to go. We just put $100,000 or so into it.
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah. So
So
the plan is,
lifespan of that truck was to be 3 years, so the idea was to move it forward so that we can put it on the warrant article this year, so the fire department would start going out and doing some.
in a perfect world, if the fire station bond was approved, that would have been the plan. The priorities now are the fire station, and then thank you.
Seeing no other hands, we'll move on to the next article, Article 7, which is the operating budget. Total operating budget recommendation is $7,958,050. An increase from the 2023 budget of about 7.2%. The default budget is listed here with most of the adjustments based on debt service being paid down, release being paid out, and picking up bond payments for Upper Wilson Pond Dam. On the warrant, there were choices between the default budget and the operating budget, and the difference between those is just under $490,000. Major increases, leading to that increase in the executive department. We previously had a shared human resource coordinator and human services general assistance position. That person is going to be shifting to part-time status, is going to continue to do the general assistance portion, and we're planning to make the human resource coordinator position full-time. Human resources used to be something that just kind of got tacked on to finance when you become a new employee, they'll help you get your paperwork set up. Unfortunately, it continues to become increasingly specialized and a challenging role. So we want to have a dedicated person to be able to focus on employee health and safety, developing personnel-related policies, being a resource for the employees. So those are that position to be a full-time position. So it's not adding a benefit package, but it is adding basically half of the wage. In elections, 2024, as everyone knows, if you ever watch TV, it's election season, so we have 4 elections in 24. The first one's in a couple of weeks, and then the town election, the state primary, and then the federal election. So there's an increase in that. Health insurance, this was definitely a big one. We saw a 15% premium increase. In addition, we have about, I think, 6 is what I counted, vacant positions. Some of those employees might have been the lower cost plan. Our typical practice has been to budget for those as a 2-person plan, kind of somewhat in the middle. So I think part of the increase is also reflecting the vacant positions. Planning, as a lot of the folks that are on various committees, we've had some staffing turnover over the last few years in the planning department. So we're looking to try to be more competitive with our wages and really see some more longevity. Personnel administration, that's just general kind of employee costs, Social Security, retirement, employee costs. The recycling center is looking to add a 3rd full-time employee. They're also almost always hiring for part-time employees. If anyone's interested in working a few shifts a week, that would be great. We have a nice new clean, improved facility over there. So we'll see Josh is in the back of the forward bracket. General assistance, we've also seen an increase in need for assistance and higher costs. And rents go up and different other expenses go up. The costs when folks are in need of emergency assistance, those costs increase. That service, I mentioned the Upper Wilson Pond Dam project. Folks that were here at the beginning know the Selectmen awarded that contract, so we're hoping to see that construction start soon. We're not paying our share of the debt service on that. And the sewer fund is up a little bit for contract operations and maintenance. Major decrease, we have a slight reduction to the line for other cultural services. And we also wanted to mention, the board had a discussion with some health and welfare funding agencies. These are the listed amounts for some of the major ones that we are currently funding, but several were looking for significant increases based on the Swanzey residents that they're assisting. So the board wanted to make known that we do contribute, especially to some of those, some significant amounts, and their projected needs are increasing, so it's something we can folks need to be aware of. So this just kind of wraps up again what we talked about at the beginning, major increase, 7.2%. Revenues relatively similar. The main increased revenues, Teresa and the finance team did a great job of investments working in this market. One benefit is the interest rates are higher. So this shows the net not to be raised by taxes and the approximate tax rate impact of this article, again, based on 2023 assistance. Any questions, comments, or questions? departments.
I'm just curious, if the human resource coordinator, would that person oversee all the services such as police, public works, and employees, non-employees?
We provide human resources for those departments, but wouldn't oversee the departments.
We would what?
We would not oversee the departments.
No, but I mean.
Provide human resources, yes. For all departments. Yes, Mr. Moderator.
Good evening, Bruce Baker. When you listed the major increases, what sort of, a lot of the projects had some sort of research, engineers and everybody else working on this stuff. How did you come up with these needed things other than, oh, we need another person here or there? Is there any evidence that shows us that these are necessary positions?
So the main new position is the full-time recycling center position, which maybe Josh can speak to. I think it's gotten increasingly challenging to rely almost solely on part-timers. The HR coordinator, I can discuss further if it would be helpful. You also mentioned the engineers and contractors. Those are usually not funded through the operating budget. They're funded through capital reserves. And not usually included in the budget. But I do think, to speak for the board, that they look closely at the requests and I don't think approved any of the requests lately. Certainly a more significant increase than we would normally like. Josh, why don't you come up?
So we're looking for a third full-time employee because of problems filling part-time slots. It's become increasingly difficult to find those positions, and I think it would also help build the team that we already have. It's a very time-consuming job, and the third full-time will help kind of cover different slots and help us out and really improve overall operations.
So yes, Josh and Nick are also working to learn more about the sewer operation with West Swanzey wastewater treatment plant, and hoping to work on getting their licenses so they can help cover. So it's another way that kind of takes their time away from their other duties to help kind of backfill into this other position. We've been looking for the full-time seasonal position, which we had in the budget for several years. We finally did fill it, and then we moved back to the winter. So just really need another dedicated person.
Really help round out the team and kind of help build up the team that we already have and ensure that we have another person that's able to train as we get new people. And our current staff has a variety of ages and not really guaranteed to have somebody 5 to 10 years. It could be a 2-3 year stint or looking for a little more longevity, I guess, would be the best way to put it, so where you can help grow in that position and really just help overall operations and residents help them out as well. So I think it'd be a very important thing to have that third person. Any questions?
Like, you said that Josh will be looking into some of the operations of the wastewater treatment plant. So can you clarify, I mean, we have a company that runs that plant, so what is it that they won't be doing that Josh would have to pick up those?
I can speak to that for you. So, you know, Scott retired from operating the sewer plant. He's a real asset to the town. He did the work of what would basically take 3 operators right now. So we are using a contracted operator right now because of the lack of licensed applicants. It's that simple. And one of our, I wouldn't say long-term, but it's not a short-term goal, is if we can get Josh and Nick to have their licenses it's a stage one license that's required. They're in the process of trying to get that now. And then they would work with the operator being trained for a period of approximately 3 to 5 years so they could get their stage two license. And then with a goal of the future of going away from having an operator run the plant. But it is long term. I think Josh and Nick can speak with Scott definitely can. It's pretty complex. It's not just something you pick up in a little bit of time. And the demands keep changing. A lot to do with the permit for operating the plant. The demands keep changing. So if everything worked out well, in a 3 to 5 year term, we could possibly go away from a contractor. But that's definitely down the road. But the more, once they would get their stage one licenses, they would get more involved with the daily operations of the plant. And we could start to scale back some of the operational costs. Still use the contractor, but scale back how much they do and start to trim more over the down.
Any other questions on whether?
Thanks, Josh.
So we got these charts and graphs that we included here, just gives you a sense of kind of the overall budget picture. Different percentages by department. And then the revenue breakdown, pretty typical, 50% from property tax and the rest divided up. Yes, sir.
Is there, this is showing the operating budget going up 7.2%. Does that include what we're going to be paying for all these other things that we've been discussing to this point?
Yeah, it's just for the operating.
Do you have an estimate of what that's going to be if all those bonds pass and we have to start paying the bonds, how much that's going to affect the tax rate?
They do, yes, at the end, get to a summary of the articles at the end. So, next up, Article 8, these next two will look familiar to folks each year. So this first one is kind of the non-DPW items. Total amount of $435,000. You can see the list of funds and how much is being recommended. This was based on the capital improvement committee's work throughout the summer. Bruce is here to share. Mr. Bitterly would not be here, but I think he might be able to do the questions. So then it's the first of two. We do a 6-year plan. Major increases are identified here. The largest one for the Mount Caesar Union Library based on their renovation project they have ongoing currently. Any questions, comments, or concerns on this one? Article 9, so this is the DPW related funds, total amount of $675,000. Major increase was for highway equipment based on equipment prices increasing significantly more than general inflation. And the major decreases are town bridges and covered bridges. Last year we had a separate article based on some one-time state funding, so we were able to bring those funding amounts from prior years. So this article is contingent, so if Article 3 passes, doesn't matter what happens with this one, but this is kind of the backup plan to, if the bond article does not pass, we had an article like this last year, trying to put away $300,000 a year to save up towards the new or improved administrative fire stations. Article 11 would be establishing expendable trust funds for the Cheshire National Rail Trails, raising $10,000 to start that fund. Now, for 7 or 8 years, it's had a Rail Trails Advisory Committee, and we work with the staff to go out to seek grants, do volunteer efforts, their contractors, so this will help support their efforts and provide some matching funds to grants. So the next article, actually the last article of the business, is to set up an expendable trust fund for ambulance services. Raised $40,000. One of the items we spent a lot of time in the first half of the year on was ambulance service. So, probably know Deluzio ambulance closed rather abruptly in May of 2023. We worked on a regional approach to select a new vendor, and as of July 1st, Swanzey contracted with the Cheshire County EMS department. Our current contract with them runs basically 3 years through 2026, but the rates are subsidized by federal funds. We know we're getting a discount, so the board thought it was prudent to start saving for that potential flip after 2026. So the payments are increasing over the next 3 years up to $81,500. But what we got from another vendor, Rescue Inc., which potentially is more true cost, was over $300,000 a year. So 40,000 this year, and if we increase that in future years, isn't necessarily going to save up $300,000, but it will at least help give some flexibility and help offset increases in the future. So this is that summary we were mentioning. So all the articles passed. Again, the contingent one, it's assuming either that passes or the fire station. Just under a 14% increase. The town tax rate would be $8.60. There'd be an increase for a $200,000 house in your town tax bill, a little over $200 for 2023. Again, this is a public hearing, so if any other questions, comments, input, we greatly appreciate it. The next step will be the deliberative session, February 6th, weather permitting, 7 p.m. that will come off. So the articles can be amended, and then the voting day is March 12th at the High School gym from 8 to 7 p.m.
Yes, my name is Norm Swanzey, and I'm a member of the Selectmen appointed advisory committee of the Golden Water Plan. And that project has been in place since about this time last year. Meeting a couple of times a month to look at the drain property, figure out what's wrong with it, what it used to be. And we have been working very closely with the Selectmen, making quarterly reports, keeping them great with what's going on. And our main focus was applying for some grants to renovate the building, because architect had done a study a few years ago that said basically a restoration of that building is $200 million to do it correctly. Everyone knows that we didn't have a grant that would be able to do that. So in the intervening time, what's happened is that we realized that this is serious repair work that needs to be done in the building. Stop water infiltration, the roof, windows, and some drainage. So the selectmen are aware of list. And, you know, I just wanted to bring it up, because I'm hearing that there was a great situation. We do have $30,000 capital fund. We used the building, we did it some work with the repairs past year, very successful. And a little better than use of that space with the community, one group, there's one grander, one better, kind of senior citizen outreach programs, about coffee connections, which quite a few seniors attended, and that was a good fundraiser there. We process with target money, target go to this project. So all I'm saying right now is that the roof is 42 now. Staff really needs to be replaced, the entire roof. The windows, which are original windows, glass and frame, we talked to preservation people, to be rebuilt, reconstructed, it probably should be really as a source value, not only the town, but the state. It's 1.6 standalone, right, all that remain in the state of so here. So all I'm asking is maybe the select give some consideration to some component of these as we talked about some of the meetings that we included.
I thought we had somewhere in the budget for the range, a certain amount that was going into a plus.
There is a capital improvement fund, there's approximately $30,000 that they have not been funding that, you know, for the last couple of years, because the second one, the one they use is building, is limited that addition. I'm sorry, almost. They put money in there up until this past year, the $5,000, the last time they added money, there's approximately $40,000. And for the years.
So we don't have anything currently in our budget for that fund?
There's 30,000.
No, to be
Oh, I
added, yeah.
Oh,
So there's no working budget for the rate, there's no account specifically other than capital. And
Well, there is a capital, don't we usually put money in each year to add to the capital improvement?
Bruce, you know what they put in this year?
I'm not talking, I don't think we put anything.
so this year, the capital improvement committee is not elected for the budget this year. In 2022, it was 30,000, in 2023, they added another 1,000. So this is approximately $30,000.
Yeah, but I don't understand this, I thought annually that we put money into that capital improvements program for the Grange. And what I'm hearing is we don't annually do that.
There's nothing recommended this year.
We know we can't save enough money to do the $1 million project.
Right.
But we can put in a little seed money
Right.
to try and get some grants. Kind of like what happened here.
So there is money allocated this year for,
Yeah.
well, then how can we be putting seed money in there?
There's 30,000 in there.
But nothing, that's just what's carried over, right? I mean, there's nothing added this year, why aren't we adding this year?
I wasn't on the capital improvement, perhaps Bruce could speak.
Okay.
Which do you think is more important, the green call or the fire station?
I don't think that it's a new or. I think they're both important.
I do. I think the fire station is far more important than the green call. So we just elected this year not to contribute any money in there.
But we have other projects that we're also.
We are bypassing the issue 2, which the selectmen don't figure to put on there. But we think that's pretty important and wasn't included.
So what I'm hearing is this isn't necessarily the place to add to it, that it had to have been at the capital improvements.
You have to be, you can go to the next month's meeting.
And that can
It's a
still be.
deliberative session, you can adjust the funding.
But this is a public hearing, so you're still, oh, I know, I'm just saying that, you know, Mike Gasson, who was this person, you know, looked at the building.
We've been all through that.
the summer, they didn't do weeks. And so basically the question is, you know, do we let it go another year while the committee kind of works on the recommendation, come back, do it year, whatever, or do we just say, we want to keep it more, important enough for the community that we want to replace the roof, the windows, and the drainage to prevent water from the basement. Once the water's tight, we can continue to have programs there, new community, how we get people interested in the project, but we've done due diligence. That's very important. That's really what it's happening. And it has to be done, we all get that. And we know it's not going to be $1 million project. You know, we had the project connections to do that all summer long. The folks were trying with this, you know, the shaking, you know, you would say it was about it. But I just want to have a place to have coffee, you know, or items, or activities, you know, and there's a lot of isolated people, seniors in the community that don't have a place to go. And it makes a nice place. That the other thing that's good for, so a lot of nonprofit organizations that usually say, we don't have a place to be, you know, we can't pay to meet somewhere, we don't have to do it. And then the town hall, the eventual point where office was kind of consumed the building, so this was maybe the first where the town government could actually have, like, they had a meeting, you know, state agency or something, they just walk across the street. That's it. Mike Jasmine has been working on estimates, and what Mike told me is that, you know, just the way everything is, he thinks it's between 80 and 100,000 for the roof. It's about 20,000 for the windows, and then, you know, somewhere around 7 to 10 for the drainage, which you cannot get firm estimates until you know what we're like seriously. He's got rough estimates. The other thing that's important though is that we applied for a community development grant twice. We were denied the first round. The state. The most of grant is grant for working on storing windows, so we may get money in addition to this. Yeah.
I would suggest that you get real estimates of that roof. It's a roof work. They just threw it out back here, and that was $30,000. Crazy estimate, so. Even though it's nothing, maybe
Scott, they're talking about a complete replacement of the roof with trusses. So it's like.
I guess the question is, does it need it? I mean, if you want to save the building, you don't have $30,000 to do it.
But it does serve a purpose that we did this, you know.
Oh, I agree. I like the roof. It'd be nice to replace it.
Is there investigating?
Well, it might be me, I just got over the cold, I couldn't hear him, because he was directing his voice that way, but I just want to get the gist of it. Are you trying to get the main things, find watertighted, is that what I understand? So you can buy time to gather money?
And do fundraising and
So you try to get accomplished the roof and the window so it's tight, so no more destruction will happen. So we'll stabilize the building, am I correct?
Yes, because we don't, we won't need it.
Yeah. So that's what you're asking for?
Yes.
And I couldn't really hear, but these estimates could be 200,000?
The estimate for the roof was 85,000 to 100,000, and he's had several people look at it, but, you know, again, there's not an account set up for this, by finding out whether the town wants to do this. You can get more firm estimates, plus there's the grant aspect, we may still be able to get grant money for some projects. And that's just the first group project, you know, this isn't a total restoration, this is a big project we did a total restoration. But this would buy time, we should say.
In your eyes, are you looking at 10 years to have this accomplished?
Well, you know, grants.
They change every,
We're
I
working
understand that.
diligently.
So something could happen.
Yes, the committee has been working, writing grants. We've worked with former town planner, Julius Deal, who is very diligent. It's just that, you know, what grants are available and how they apply. They're all different. They have all different criteria. So we just keep.
So if it isn't done, what do you expect the building's gonna happen? Is it gonna eventually just cave in, and we're gonna look at a cave-in building? Are you saying within a year, did anybody estimate that
It's only gonna last another year here, and the roof is gonna cave in. Is that what's gonna happen?
How do you like to put that? I guess, yeah. It's not gonna get better.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's putting a time frame like that on, but yeah, it's been a long time since I've had any real work done to it.
I had coffee in there too, right?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about, right?
That was one of the activities. And then during
So
the
it's
bluegrass-
safe enough for people to go in there, and we're in there, we're safe, so you do that.
Yes, Barbara?
I would just like to say, offer my support to, funding that, fund, the, Federal Reserve Fund, for the, range, even if it's a nominal amount, because I know when you go for grants, being able to prove that you have community support, is a factor often. And, I think if we are, even if it's not a huge amount, but if we continually are funding that, or providing some funds in that to build that up, then I think that would be important in getting more money to protect this building or revamp this building. And, I sit here, the number of years at Whipple Hall, sat here without anybody touching it and it deteriorating. And now it's used basically as the meeting place for the town. So, that as Swanzey expands, that could very well be a viable meeting place and well utilized by the community. So I don't think we should let it just go on.
More could you, explain to the folks here about your proper connection and how just having people notice something like that will help with the grant application as far as the usage?
Like I said before, every grant has different criteria. The Community Development Finance Authority wanted to have a special grant for community centers. Needs to serve the community center, place on, a gathering location, let's have a meeting, place for people to go. So we didn't have any activities when we did the first grant application. We said at first, we didn't have planned activities already in place. We said, well, it's chicken and an egg. You can't have activities with water, with the roof, or the heat, or whatever, go with us. So, the grant was for a community center. So if we came to the selectmen and said, the use that we feel is the most important is community center or place for safety. And so to show an activity, we developed a copy of that. We have a lot of things, some of the meetings had, 18 cars there, we came in from the community and stayed for over a couple of hours, and then the bluegrass festival there. And also, the Swanzey Preservation Society and the advisory committee. It was not the role of them programming, so Mike could ask them to work with the recreation department. Then we started a dialogue with the recreation director, but I think we also asked the committee to continue working with so
Even more reason for the town to show continual support for the preservation activity.
and I say 18 people, how many sessions did we have? We had 6, we had to stop for cold weather. And it was growing each week, so I think there's definitely a need this year. The next thing.
And this is opening a whole other can of worms. For example, I've only been back in the town for the last year or so I haven't been around for all of the going back and forth about the new station and the new station. If the fire department does not pass this year, could there be some thought given, just putting $1 million into the drainage and moving your town offices to the drainage and making the town hall the fire department?
So,
Has there been any cost analysis as to, what that would cost to renovate the town hall for the fire department and the drainage for the?
so I can't say it 100% because we've never had that kind of dialogue with the selectmen. We're just advisory. The selectmen appoint us, we meet, and we tell them what we think is the best route. Ultimately, it would be up to the selectmen. I think if they were ever a project, renovate the town hall, and there was an interim need, that would certainly be maybe a smart thing, because it's right across the street. But remember too, that the building is a historic building, it's on the National Historic Registry. It is a meeting hall, similar to this on the second floor, and it's a meeting hall on the first floor, that's a dining room with a kitchen, and that's it. There's no office space in there, there's no room for office space, but it's a great place to have a meeting, you know what I mean? It just makes a great place to have meeting.
So when I moved out to Swanzey 20-some odd years ago, the town hall had all. It wasn't office space, like it is now. So I think you could make office space in the if you wanted to, you probably still have a meeting. I don't know what the square footage is. I gotta be honest if you're doing that. I'm just thinking of, it's just a possibility of a way to utilize buildings we already own and not build another building if the town decides, no, we're not building it. That's an idea.
Just, that is something we did consider and look at, when Norm was the fire chief and Eric, interim fire chief is here as well. Unfortunately, a lot of the issues with the center station would not be resolved by getting the town hall on the top. The doors are still low, that also is another building that has water that gets into it. The lockers are still in the bays, there's still only one way in or out. Not to say there's not a way to, do that, but I don't think it would be a small endeavor to just get the town hall. I'm not saying you're saying that, but,
Yeah, and no. So it's one of those ideas people try to look at, but a lot of money to renovate that hall.
Jamie, do you have anything?
Yes, last year there was $1,000 in the fund for the range, so would it not be appropriate to show that is reduced by $1,000 this year because the range fund is happening? I don't know the terminology, but anyway, they didn't do anything in this year at all, so it decreased by $1,000. And it would seem to me that what has been said, it only makes sense. If the town owns the building, you should be putting something in every year, if only to cover maintenance. Why do you let things fall apart because of the deferred maintenance? It looks bad. It looks bad for our town. It's sloppy. And every time that we've had, which I can remember two in the last 5-6 years, we've had a warrant article on related to the range, and each time they passed. And don't tell me, yes, but they only passed by 5 votes or something, because if they passed by 1, they passed. And so that shows some community support in the hinterland here of people. So,
Anyway, thanks for
Thank you. Anything else?
Close the public hearing. Close the public hearing. You are done.
Thank you. See you at the deliberative session.
So,
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah.